what is it called? Kyle Main Edit. Kyle Main Edit, take one. And we're rolling.
My name is Kyle, I'm 35, and I'm a drag queen.
So, talk about your journey to 30.
So, the year I was turning 30, I actually had just left being a flight attendant. So I had all these plans based on my career as a flight attendant. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. I was with my now husband. We were planning on getting engaged and all of that. And when I left the airline, that completely changed, my plans and future goals that I had in place. And I had to really have some serious self-introspection and kind of make a decision on what it is that I want to do, really look at all of my pros, the things that I'm really strong at, and make a decision on where I could take that. And that actually took me to cosmetology. And cosmetology opened me up to drag. I've always been a person who loves to serve people, and that also kind of translates into my performance and being a performer, because I always love entertaining and making people happy. And if I can help them escape whatever it is that they're going through for a moment, then I feel like that is a true privilege and honor. I used to say, selfish people live longer. And then recently someone was just like, it's not selfish, it's self-love. And I'm like, that is it. That is it. It is self-love. It's all about taking a moment and serving yourself, saying, I'm going to do this to make me happy, to kind of get me to a place where, I feel like I can go ahead and be of service to others once I'm at my 100. If I'm not at my 100, then it's time for me to take a moment and say, stop, let's do something for me. I think my biggest fear in regards to getting older was just kind of not achieving the things that I, as a child, thought that I would achieve. When you are 10, 15 years old, you believe that by the time that you're 25 or 30, that you'll be able to go ahead and you'll have everything in terms of your life already planned out. Everything is set, the ball has been moving, and it doesn't really work that way. My early 20s were a time where I was allowed to kind of experiment and, travel the world and be exposed and learn new things. And yeah, it's taught me to be flexible and understanding that life changes. And that was something that actually I had to really come to grips with. That was something that was a little hard to take, because when you're a planner, when you have been on a track your entire life, everything is already set for you. And when you get to a point where there is no track, there is at this point, it's no, you have to make all these decisions for you. The planning is not going to be made for you, and you also have to be able to shift. It took a moment. When I was turning 30, I was jobless because I had just left being a flight attendant, and I was trying to figure out where my life was going. So literally, as I was turning 30, I was on unemployment. I was throwing a party in my mom's backyard with my friends, and I'm just celebrating turning 30 with no real kind of direction or goal. And it wasn't the best way. I didn't feel like my best. When I turned 25, I had everything kind of already planned, and I was I had a huge party. I had parties, and I had a dinner and everything. And then I thought 30 was going to be the next level. And I actually felt like I took a couple steps back, and it didn't feel the best. I went from doing rooftop parties and brunches in the city to having a backyard barbecue for my 30th. And it was just kind of like, what am I doing? You know, it was honestly, so, I always think about being Black and gay. So it was just kind of like, turning 30 was just like a whole nother, like, it was like unrelated. Because it was, the age for me is more so like goal related. But being Black and gay is literally like my everyday identity. Like that's, I'm going about that all the time. I'm always thinking about it. And even, you know, as I was like stepping into doing drag, going into cosmetology, which pretty much got me into drag, my whole thing was just like, ugh, I'm like feeding into the stereotype of like being a gay man, like, oh, you're like, you have to do hair and makeup and all this other stuff. And, you know, when I was doing my introspection and I was like taking a tally of what I'm good at, like what are my natural talents, what are the things that, you know, I have always been complimented on, and how can I use that to, you know, dictate what this next chapter is going to be for me. It came down to me being someone who has a very good eye for detail. I love to style people. I love making people look good in their clothing. And, you know, I've always had a good eye and a steady hand when it came to art. So I was just kind of like, why am I not like combining all of these things? And that's what brought me to cosmetology. And then, you know, while I'm doing cosmetology, I grew up dancing. I was dancing professionally at 10 years old, doing like, you know, major performances from 10 to 13. And I even started like a dance group in college. I love entertaining. So it's just like, why am I not doing drag? Especially, you know, once the art form, because of shows like Drag Race, it became much more of a real opportunity to create a career out of it. And I was just like, if I should be doing that. I should be a part of this movement in terms of this form of artistry. And I needed to get past my own kind of like thought process of like, you know, shame. That whole like idea of like, you know, I don't want to do drag because I don't want anyone to further feminize me. There was a moment when I was 10, a grown man was talking to my peers, my classmates, and, you know, basically saying, I think he called me a faggot. And that did affect me because you know, by then I definitely knew what that term meant. And that incident did sit with me because, you know, it pretty much was like, you know, I need to be aware of how I come off to people. Otherwise, you know, I can be called a faggot. And, you know, as a 10-year-old kid, that's not something that you want. I might have even been 9, but that's not something you want to like hear from a grown person. And I definitely think that like probably has gone along with me for a lot of my life, until I got to the point where I was, you know, I became more comfortable with my own sexuality and identity and willingness to go ahead and just do something that I know that I'm good at. I know that, you know, could actually be my God-given talent, but I'm like so focused on how I'm perceived and how other people receive me that I'm just like, you know, I'm stifling my own ability to succeed and, you know, be my 100% authentic self. People just need to be willing to step outside of themselves and not be afraid of what's different, because that's what makes us, you know, unique and desirable and marketable and exciting. Like, I don't want to be like anyone else. I just want to be me.
That's good.